Welcome to Soul Sessions with Emma, sharing stories of people who have chosen to live honestly, to take risks, to start again. My guest today is Cormac Noonan, someone I have admired for quite a long time. I'm delighted to have him with us today. Cormac is a poet, author, and founder of Wolf Academy, an organisation he created in 2020 with the mission to bring transformative well-being and purpose-driven education into schools across Ireland. He also leads men's circles, has spoken in schools, and recently published his third book, Crafting Your Own Character. His most recent offering, Thresholds, powerfully explores what happens when boys are left without healthy rites of passage. He has also created courses entitled the Living Cert, great name, that are currently being offered in schools centred around well-being and self-discovery. Cormac is also one of the 15 finalists for this year's Social Entrepreneurs Ireland Impact Programme Award, and I can't think of someone more deserving. Cormac, it's an honour to have you with me today.
Thanks very much, Emma, and thanks for the introduction. I was smiling there because, I don't know if anyone's ever introduced me as a poet, so I appreciate that one.
So I thought the best way to begin our chat today is to take us back to really one of the main focuses of your work at present is focusing on young people. And I think maybe it'd be lovely to find out a little bit more about you, about Cormac as a young teenager, who he was, and how you would perhaps describe yourself.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's funny because we were just doing a training at the weekend with some of the Wolf Academy facilitators, and we were actually role-playing, going back to our teenage self. So only a few days ago, I had the experience of going back to when I was a teen, well, probably 16 or 17. And yeah, it's really powerful when you do these role plays because you can actually nearly remember what it was like being that age. And doing it on Saturday really brought me back to what I was like. And the feeling was, while we were, I suppose someone was delivering an exercise in a workshop and I was a participant as a teenager, while I wanted to engage in the workshop and I found it really interesting, I was so preoccupied with what my friends were thinking. So there was a fella beside me, and in the role play, he was my friend. So I was more focused on trying to impress him, or maybe not even impress him, but get his approval, that I couldn't fully engage. And it really brought me back to when I was a teenager, and I was so focused on other people's opinions of me, focused on, everything external to me and how I was being perceived. And I never actually asked myself, what do I want, or what are my needs, or what are my wishes for the future? And it was always around, how do I fit in? How do I make sure that I'm safe? I suppose it was probably, now with my current understanding, I realized that it was probably coming from a wound from earlier on in childhood where I wanted to make sure that I felt safe in any environment I was in, because maybe during childhood I didn't always feel safe. So it was a response to that. And I suppose on top of that, it would have been a lot of people pleasing behavior and, just wanting everyone to like me and being a nice guy. But at the same time, I think it's so hard to describe yourself sometimes, because on the other side of it, then there was quite a playful part of me, and I loved just I went to an all boys secondary school. I loved having the crack with the lads. I was a bit of a messer in my, first to third year. I was quite academic, but also a bit of a messer, probably playing into it just to maybe be cool in front of the lads. Yes. But I still enjoyed that side of things. And even as I got older, I had a great ability to get myself into all sorts of ridiculous situations, which were usually quite funny. But so I think there was that part of me too. But yeah, I think we're just so complex that it's easy to just say I was, shy and quiet, and I was a bit of a people pleaser and trying to fit in. but there was also part of me that was outgoing at times, and there was times where I remember one occasion. I'm not going to speak about that because I might get a few people in trouble. But anyway, I suppose there was vision in my teens actually that loads of people were doing drugs that I was with, and I was the one person that said no. Like everyone I was with at that time at that event, and so I suppose there was still, despite wanting to fit in so much, I still had this fortitude to some extent to follow my own path. It was hidden in there somewhere, and it didn't always come out, but on certain things I suppose I was able to stand strong in myself. And I suppose, yeah, looking back at my teenage self, there is parts of that teenage self that I have maybe developed and grown over the years, and also healed. But there's other parts that I'm realizing recently that maybe I need to reintegrate, like that more playful side of me that's maybe at times I get a bit serious, and I am starting to integrate that playfulness again. And yeah, there's lots there from that teenage self that maybe, needs to be rediscovered as well. Not just, it wasn't all things that needed to be changed or worked on. So yeah, it was really interesting just tuning into it there at the weekend, and it's something I don't go back all the time now. It's only when I suppose things come up and I might have to look at things and I might go back to that, area or that stage of my life. But yeah, it's really interesting, and I think it's so complex and diverse as well.
You hit on that point of revisiting your teenage years and the parts of you. I see it myself in young boys in school. The playful parts of them, I suppose, in some ways are knocked out of them because they have to be disciplined within the school system. So there is a lot of conversation recently about readapting the system, maybe not so much in Ireland, but elsewhere for boys in particular, because in terms of brain development and emotional development, they are behind teenage girls, and there's a lot of inequality in the system for young boys. So perhaps hopefully in the future things will get easier to be able to keep those parts of a young person's self. So going back to your teenage self and then moving along to your young adult life, I was just reading your book today, and you have a little bit of a snippet about that transition from secondary school to choosing the right course, the right university. And you said until I was 25, I had been wrongly following the career path I thought I wanted. After landing a job in one of the world's leading tech companies, the dream I chased since I was 17, and I found myself dragging myself out of bed each day, and I felt numb, disillusioned, and I knew I had to quit and start again. So if you wouldn't mind sharing with us, it seemed like this was a turning point in your life. You had just gone through the process of choosing the so-called perfect course, and you got into Trinity College, which is a really well-established college in Ireland, and it just wasn't working out the way that you thought it would.
Yeah, so yeah, well researched there, but I suppose, yeah, I chose a course that I logically thought I would be good at, and I suppose I was quite good at it because maths and statistics and science and those sort of things were my strong point in school. Even though I didn't really enjoy them that much, I was good at them. It was more natural to me, and I always did have an interest in business. So that course in Trinity came along, MSIS. It's even gone up in points now. I think it's like 625. I would never got in if I was going for it today, but it was a bit less back then. When I got into the course, it did suit my skills to some extent, and I did quite well in it. And then I got into a job in IT, which at the time everyone was telling me this is where you're going to make money, and this is one of the best jobs you can get as a graduate. So I was delighted when I got the job, and I'd worked hard to get to that point during my 4 years, and even before that with the Living Cert. But it was funny, only after I say a few weeks, but it could have been a few days in there. I just knew straight away that when I was sitting in the office, I just knew I was like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. And it took me 2.5 years to actually make the jump to get out of there. I suppose it was because logically, again, it didn't make financial sense to leave. I had rent in Dublin, and I did enjoy the social aspect of we had nights out and we had free drinks on a Friday and all this crack when you're working in the corporate world, which was fun. And there was a young group of people in there. So I did have a bit of crack in there. But in terms of the actual work, it was, for me, it just didn't resonate at all. And I remember my first couple of days in the job, I actually started writing poems. I never really wrote poems before, but I remember writing a poem in like my first week just at the desk. And I think now it was because my soul was like craving some sort of feeling or expression that I couldn't get in that job. And I suppose then, I didn't really know where to go from there because, everyone tells you this is the path. And I thought I was following my own path, but again, I was stuck up in my head. I'd never really tuned into the heart piece. And I remember then it was coming up to December 20, this was back in 2015. Might tell you how old I am, but it was December 2015, and I remember I was passing a guy on the streets of Dublin, and I just remember thinking he was homeless. I remember thinking, why is it fair that this man has nothing and I have this nice suit and this good job and all this money coming into my bank account now? And I just, something sparked within me, and I was even thinking about maybe he had a really tough childhood, or maybe he had no opportunity to even go to college like me. So I suppose that compassion was there, and I was like, oh, someone should do something about this. Like the government should do something, or, about the homelessness situation. And then the voice inside was like, Cormac, why can't you do something? It's like, you have time, you have ideas, you have money as well. So it's like, maybe you can at least help this one man. And then just coming up to Christmas, I decided to skip a 12 pubs at Christmas and spend the money I would have spent in the pub on buying pizzas. And I went around with one of my friends at the time, went around Dublin City chatting to homeless people on the streets and just sharing some pizza with them and listening to their stories. And I suppose the profound realization I had that day was that, yes, they were grateful for the pizza, but what they cared more about was that we actually took the time to listen to them and hear their stories. And some of the stories were not nice stories at all, but for me, it was refreshing to hear the honesty in their stories. Now, maybe some of them weren't all honest either, but there was a lot of rawness and a lot of honesty. And it was so opposite to what I was witnessing or experiencing in the IT job, because everyone comes into that job with these masks on and like, oh, everything's fine and, I'm happy and blah, blah, blah. No one's actually saying how they're feeling. And I'm not saying you're supposed to go around the office sharing all your emotions, but there was no space for realness. And on the streets, I felt more like, when I was with people on the streets, I felt more connected to myself and my own realness, I suppose. Yeah. And it's funny now because one of our values at Wolf Academy is real, just to be real and authentic. But yeah, for me then, this passion to help these people on the streets was burning, and I set up Pizza Sunday Club. So every Sunday on Grafton Street for 2 years, we had a stand and we had pizzas, and we invited people to come down and help out. And I think the key for us was not to, like, there was some other people set up giving food to those experiencing homelessness, but we didn't want to separate. We're the helpers and yous are the ones getting helped. So we had no uniform, and you'd go down there on a Sunday, you wouldn't know who's homeless and who's not homeless, and that was the key. And we'd had live music and just conversation, and just, it was a space for people to, I suppose, maybe just forget about their situation for a while and chat and connect and listen to some music, and also maybe, like, I think we're just trying to build a community around those experiencing homelessness. So if there was things they were struggling with, they could maybe ask for. And one of the, I suppose, things I didn't expect was a lot of the volunteers that came down, they got a lot of help from it too. So it was yeah, it was like you think you're coming down to help, but you're actually getting helped just by being there and connecting with people. So yeah, it was a really beautiful thing that we did, and we had a great team there. And I suppose, but after a couple of years, I started getting frustrated with the homelessness situation. I was also looking at the bigger problem and like, how do we get people houses? Because I knew this was only it was a nice thing, but it wasn't going to solve homelessness. And I don't know, the way my brain works, I like to get to the root of things. And yeah, I got a bit disillusioned with the whole thing, and I also was getting burnt out because I was giving so much to these people and I wasn't, looking after myself enough. So I decided to head off traveling for a while, and I suppose that kind of started another story. But I also when I was away, I was taking time to think about the homelessness situation, all the other problems that we see in the world, and I was like trying to get to the root of that. And then I realized, I suppose, the root was education, and changing education was the only way to really solve a lot of these problems.
So powerful, Cormac, so inspiring. I did read that when you were traveling, you had an epiphany on a park bench in Prince Edward Island. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Was that the foundation of Wolf Academy?
Yeah. So I was on a cycle in Canada. I was there for 2 years in total, but it was coming up to the end of my time there, and I had learned lots about myself, and I was doing lots of meditation and journaling and all of this, but I still didn't know what my purpose was or what I was going to do when I got home. So I decided to go on a 30-day cycle by myself. And so I just threw a tent on the back of my bike and headed off towards the east coast of Canada. And I got to Prince Edward Island. And yeah, I remember I had a tent, but there was nowhere to put up my tent that night. So I just said I'd sleep on the park bench. Also, the effort of putting up a tent and taking it down every night, I was just getting sick of it, and tying it onto your bike. So I was like, the park bench will have to do for tonight. But yeah, I remember waking up at like 5 in the morning on the park bench, and there was a lake in front of me. And I think earlier that evening, I'd sat there for hours just thinking. And I woke up at 5 in the morning with this idea to, when I go back to Ireland, to go into the schools and help young people with things like learning meditation or goal setting or visualization techniques or building confidence, and all of the things I'd learned over the previous couple of years. And I just thought maybe that's something I could do. And I suppose that was the spark for Wolf Academy. That was the initial first concept of the idea of what it could be. And there was many other moments where different ideas for it came through, but that was a real, I could feel the energy of it when I woke up on that bench. And it was ironic in some sense, because people were walking by me thinking I was a homeless man because my clothes were a bit dirty. And but from that place, I was like, oh my God, I felt I could do anything, because I was kind of nobody at that time, because no one knew who I was. I was just this random guy on a bicycle. And that kind of gave me a sense of freedom too, that I can start again and do anything I want to do. And I think that's one of the reasons I knew I needed to leave Ireland, was to allow myself to step away from my old identity, to be like, who do I actually want to be? What do I actually want to do? So yeah, that was the start of it.
I think being away from everything that's familiar, it gives you that space, doesn't it, to really listen to yourself. So as you formed Wolf Academy and obviously started to take off, you went into schools around Ireland. How did you find the reception you received to begin with, and especially perhaps maybe from young boys?
Yeah, I remember, well, it was myself and my older brother Daryl who started it originally. And I remember our first talk was to TY students, and we'd been practicing, I actually had done a couple of school talks about Pizza Sunday Club before that, but hadn't done much. And we were practicing our talk through WhatsApp messages, like sending just voice notes over and back, or videos, I can't remember. And we'd practiced it loads, but obviously doing it in front of people was different for the first time. But we actually got a great reception. It was in Gormanstown College there in Meath, and yeah, we got a great reception, and the teachers were loving it, and the students were really engaged, and we were buzzing after it. And we kind of knew then there was, there was something here to these stories. And the key with that was just to be honest and to share, the real story of. Now, I know there's so many versions of the story of your life you could share, but I suppose the moments that we thought would be beneficial for them to hear. For me, I was talking about following your own path and, finding what's true for you and what you want to do. And Daryl was speaking more about the importance of expressing your emotions and where that can lead you if you don't express them in a healthy way. But yeah, we just started, and I suppose we didn't really see the path ahead. We just thought we'll just do talks in schools. But over the years, it's obviously just developed into workshops and online programs, and I suppose writing more books and all sorts of things. So yeah, I think I just knew I had to get into the schools and start talking about things. But it's funny now because we've nearly moved away from talking too much, and now it's more about facilitation for the students to start to discover who they are rather than us telling them anything. It's like helping them tap into these things. So in fairness, we've got good reception from a lot of schools. At the same time, there tends to be still a bit of resistance when it comes to well-being. I know we've spoke about this before, and Ireland is probably a bit behind in some ways. It's hard to measure different countries against each other, but yeah, we could definitely do with more integration of well-being into the school system, and I think it's happening. Over the last 5 years, I've seen it slowly start to happen. Not as quickly as I would like it to happen, but I suppose you just have to work with these things. Like they're old systems and they take a lot of time to move. It's like trying to turn a big ship, but we'll just keep going and see how it evolves.
That's something that perhaps also is the fact that you were not a teacher and you were coming in speaking to young people as a young man. I think having someone like yourself, I would imagine it's very powerful because it's separate to the system in terms of the kids will listen perhaps more. But yeah, lots more work to do. I was just thinking, was there any standout memory or moment over the years you've been doing all of these talks, especially with students or even working with young people, that you've witnessed a real shift in that student?
Yeah, it's a great question. There has been moments where a student would come up to you after a workshop and you just see something has clicked inside them. They're just like, they're kind of staring at you with open eyes and just being like, I love that. And it's like this feeling like they're looking for more. They're like, what more can we do? What more? And funny enough, actually, one of the students a couple of years ago was in Clonturk College. He came up to me after the workshop. I was doing a mentoring circle. So I had the young men, and I think one of our facilitators, Yvonne or Yana, I can't remember who it was, but they had the young women, and he loved the men's circle, and he was like, what more can I do? And at the time I think we had an online program, but that was kind of all, but that was like 2 years ago. But now he's actually coming on our young men's rites of passage. So, because I think I had his email after he gave me his email, just if there was something coming up, and it was 2 years ago, but he still remembers it obviously, and he's buzzing to come on it. So yeah, I suppose that was one there that, I've had a good few of those moments where people come up to you like that. But it's when you see it clicking for someone, and that's, again, it's not about, I was saying this to the facilitators at the weekend, it's not about us receiving praise for this or getting a good feeling from doing the workshop. It's like, it's nice when that happens or you get good feedback, but you could do a workshop and something you say could click with someone, and you might never know about it, and you'll never know the ripples and how that will impact someone. And that's fine. You don't need to we don't need the validation. Now, it's nice at times, but we just have to trust that when we go in there and we deliver the workshop as best as we can and facilitate and really see the young people, like, you can use all the techniques in the world, but if you're going in there from your head and from your ego, if you're not going to connect, in my opinion, you're not going to really connect with them, and you're not going to really see them. And it's that we want to give them that feeling of being seen for who they are and understood for who they are, and allow them to express who they are. And I think that feeling that they get from that will spark something, or could spark something. And we don't know the ripples of that. We don't know when that will even manifest itself, but that's what we're trying to do.
It's extremely powerful. Yeah, exactly. Being seen. That's all anybody wants. And just to finish that section about education, you have your new series of wellbeing courses that you're introducing, I think, this year. Living Cert, love the name. Could you tell us a little bit about those? And so far, how have they been received? Are there a lot of orders, a lot of people interested? I suppose a lot of it will start in September, but how is that going for you?
Yeah, so the new online, we made online programs during COVID back in 2020, but we just made new ones there this summer, which will be going into schools in September. And yeah, it's the Living Cert program. One of our facilitators, Yvonne, came up with the name a good few years ago. She's been with us since the start, pretty much. And I suppose these new programs are based on what we've discovered over the last 5 years working in the schools. And we have programs aimed at the junior cycle and the senior cycle. And there is I suppose what we're doing this year, what we've realised is one-off workshops are great. You go in and you might inspire some students and connect with them, but for real lasting transformation, we know it's important to have continuous follow-on workshops. So we're actually only working with 10 schools this year, because we are going to work with 10 schools for the whole year. And so we're going to go in September, deliver our first workshop, and we'll work with each class group. So from first years to 6th years, deliver a workshop, and then after the workshop we give them one of the online programs to do, which they're like 6 to 8 weeks long, and then we come back in a couple of months later and deliver the second workshop, and we're building on what we've done in the first one and on the online program, and then again we come in a third time, deliver a third workshop. So they're doing 3 online programs and 3 workshops throughout the year. And we also I'm actually writing an SPHE book at the moment to go with that for the teachers, and we have journals for the students to track what's going on for them, what they're learning. So we've decided just to do the full solution for 10 schools, just to see how it goes this year and give them our full attention. We also do work with the 3 workshops with the teachers, because we know it's important for the teachers to look after their well-being. We're working with the parents, doing webinars so they understand what's going on. We're working with the principal as well, do one-on-one sessions with me, or there'll also be maybe a support group if they want to join that. So we're really honing in on those schools and seeing if we can make a real change in the whole school's well-being. And I've been going around to the schools we've worked in previously to talk about this, and the feedback has been really good. Like I think we've almost the 10 spots filled. We've a couple of more we're waiting to hear back from, but I'm sure we will get them filled before September. But yeah, I suppose it's good for us because we get to really focus on those small number of students and schools. And it's also good for the school because they know well-being is important, most of them at this stage, but they don't really know how to go about it. And there's a few things out there, but a lot of it's online, and I realize it's like you need the in-person as well to really get the engagement. So that blended approach, we feel, is what will work best. So yeah, so I think we're excited to see how it goes this year, and then how we can expand that to more schools and have more facilitators ideally to deliver those.
Yeah. I love the fact that you have really thought about testing it out first and asking for feedback and thinking of everyone involved, not just the students, but the teachers and the parents. Have you ever thought about running for the Minister of Education?
No, I always, whenever people ask me in the past would I ever do politics, I prefer to actually get stuff done. So I'd like to just run a business instead. But and not just talk about things. But maybe I'm being a bit harsh. Some of the politicians, I'm sure, are okay. But no, I think just, I think you mentioned Social Entrepreneurs Ireland. I remember just during the interview, they asked me, was I going to, look at trying to influence policy and stuff? And we kind of did at the start, try to get onto the department. And then after a while, I was like, right, no one's listening. Let's just do it and let's prove what we can do. And then they might come back to us and be like, all right. But yeah, there's interesting things happening. Like, I think the department are looking at, they did look for people to start creating wellbeing programs and stuff. They had a tender out there a while ago, so there is things that happening. And I suppose the way I look at things is we'll just focus on what we're doing, and not, like, I don't really worry about what anyone else is doing too much. It's okay to have a look the odd time, but I'm like, we know what we're doing, and we're just going to keep going until we figure out what works best for the students, for the schools, for the teachers, the principals, and everyone involved. And we're just continuously learning and growing. And like, we've made so many mistakes and done workshops that I was like, that didn't work. But we are figuring out as we go. And yeah, we like to think that with the feedback we get from this year, we can grow it and improve on it then as we go. So yeah, we're excited to see how it unfolds.
Oh, that's amazing. I love the fact that you don't wait for it to happen. You just make it happen. And that's something I think everyone can learn from. I love also the new initiative you have, your Project Threshold, which is up and coming on the 8th of August. Just reading up on it, it just sounds so exciting for young men ages 16 to 22. I was trying to promote it myself to a few people I know. Just to read a little extract from your description about it, you mention how many young men try to initiate themselves through cars, alcohol, fighting, sex, but they never truly satisfy that deeper longing. So perhaps to explain before we get into it, what does initiation mean to you?
Yeah, good question. I suppose initiation is to start, so it's the start of a new version of you in a sense. And in my understanding of my own journey, I've went through a few initiations into different versions of myself, and it involves like a separation from the old self, kind of like what I said about going traveling. It's like you need to be willing to let yourself, the old self, die, or like the ego, have that ego death. It's always it's never an actual real death. It's more just a death of the ego that needs to happen. And once you let go of that, and that can happen during a bad breakup, you might go through this kind of ego death of things, and you go through a lot of grief, and it can happen in many different ways. But it's also important for us to have these organized rites of passage for young men, because if they don't go through the rites of passage from boy to man, then it won't just happen naturally. It is something that has been done in cultures across the world for thousands of years, and something we've lost more recently. So what we're doing, it's new in a sense, but it's not new at all. It's old. It's new in our current society, and people are like, what is this? And it's like, well, we've been doing it for thousands of years, but obviously our version will be suited to the modern world and the Irish context. But yeah, it is the start of a new, life for that person. So this one in particular is an initiation from boy to man, which really involves taking full responsibility for yourself and for your life and the direction that you're going, and having that separation from the mother. Because if you look at Irish society, it's very, very, in my opinion, we're very attached to the mother, and we're very mothered until we're in our 20s and our 30s and even 50s and 60s at times, and that separation needs to happen at some point. And I think that's it's not about completely dismissing your mother. It's having a new, healthier relationship where you're not acting as a child. You're actually a responsible adult, and you can relate in a healthier way. So yeah, that's, again, working in schools the last couple of years, I've seen those young lads looking for more, and we know that they need that rites of passage. I went through one myself a good few years back with the Mankind Project, and I've done another one since. It's kind of a second rites of passage, but yeah, I've seen how much it impacted me and tapping into my I suppose even my assertiveness and my power and my connection to what it is to be a man. I already felt like a man, like I thought I felt like one, but then after that I was like, oh, there's deeper. It's much deeper than what I thought in my head. And yeah, myself and Barry Adamson are coming together to do it. He also had the urge to do it last year, and I've thought of it a couple of years ago as well. And but we decided to come together and do this, and it just feels like it's for me and him. Like we're just so passionate about it that it's not easy to get these things going that are a bit unknown, but we're putting in a lot of work to get it out there and find the young men who are ready for this. And I do trust that as the years go on, like this will just be a much more regular thing and more normal thing. Like I think all young men should do a rites of passage, and I'm not saying everyone has to do it, but that if I had to recommend it, I'd say it should be for all young men.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we're excited for it.
Mm. It's like a very primal thing, isn't it? Going back to the origins of, us as humans. And I think you're tapping into that. I loved you used an African proverb recently. If you don't initiate the boys, they'll burn down the village. And I think that there's a lot of wisdom in that line. What
Hmm.
do you think that means for society, in the society we're living in now?
Yeah, great question. I love that quote and that's why I'm so passionate about it as well. Not just for the mental health of the young men, but for the society or the village as a whole. Because if we don't initiate the young boys, they will not be able to control their anger. And their anger, like anger is fire as an emotion, and it will burn. It will burn other people. It will, destroy communities. It will. I see it. I also work part time. I do a lot of things, but trying to cut down on all the things I'm doing. But I work part time on a male perpetrator program for men who are being domestically violent. So I do that with Move Ireland, and I'm seeing, like, I thought going in there, oh, these are going to be monsters, but they're not. They're just normal men who have not. Most of them now. Some of them are maybe a bit worse than, but most of them are just normal men who have not connected to their emotions. We're never told about anger. We're never told about how to manage these emotions when they come up in the body. And what happens is they get triggered from an old wound from their childhood when they're in a relationship, and rage just boils up and bursts out, and they become violent. Either it's physically or verbally or emotionally. And if we don't show the young boys how to harness this powerful energy of anger, then they will be violent. They will be destructive. Like I was saying about, driving cars really fast. They want to, well, that's their kind of craving for initiation. They know something needs to change, or they're craving that challenge and that transformation. But yeah, if we don't initiate them, then they're going to be just abusive to themselves, in shame and putting themselves down and self-harm, and even just the way we treat our bodies. They'll also be harmful to others in abuse, fighting, domestic abuse, different ways, manipulation, and they'll also be abusive to the earth.
Mm.
And you can see that in, there's loads of men, we call them men, I suppose, but older boys maybe, running companies and destroying the earth because they've no connection to the land we're on. They've no connection to their emotions. They're all up in their head. All they think about is money, profit. And it's like we need to be able to show the boys how to connect to their hearts, their heads, and their bellies, as I would refer to it as the hara. That's like the seat of your power. And it's like how to be really in your own power and sovereignty while also being connected to your heart and using your head when you have to be logistical. But it's connecting these, and I kind of write about that in the second book, Craft Your Character, just about these three centers of the body and how we need to bring them into harmony to be healthy men, because at the moment we're all just stuck in our heads and we don't care about the damage we do to others or the earth or even ourselves. So yeah, for me, it's, if I had a choice, I would make it mandatory, just like school is kind of mandatory for everyone. So I would make the rites of passage mandatory for young men, not just for themselves, but because it's important to protect everyone else.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'd be better for society overall. It seems you have harnessed that energy into your writing, you know, as an author and especially as a poet and a musician. Is that true? It
No,
looks like,
that's way too far. Way too far.
well, you're not a bad singer now, in fairness.
Cheers, cheers.
I love a lot of your poetry that you're putting out there. It's very much from the heart and it's very deeply spiritual, very connecting. And some of the poetry that I listened to, you got quite emotional as well while you were reciting it. One of them that I saw recently was Dear Danu, and it was, I think, a letter to the earth. And yeah, I mean, obviously people can check it out on Instagram, but I just love the fact that it's obviously means a lot to you. Would there be any potential of perhaps giving us a bit of that today?
Yeah, I'll give it a go. But yeah, I think just before I yeah, from the rites of passage I have done, and not just the rites of passage, but the work I've done over the last number of years, my connection to the earth has deepened, and you know, it is our home, and it is, you know, the land that nourishes us and supports us, like, and with food and everything else. So it's, I suppose I'm seeing the importance of respecting the earth like another human, like we would our grandmother or any other human being. And, you know, they call it Mother Earth, so treating her with respect. And in, I suppose, in Celtic mythology, she would have been referred to a lot as Danu, like Mother Earth. I suppose Eru, being Ireland, was one of the goddesses as well. And then there's Bamba and Fola, there's actually three goddesses of this land of Ireland. But we named the land after the goddess Eru. But I see Danu as the kind of the great mother of them all. So yeah, I think before I wrote this, I do get emotional at times reading the poems, even though I try not to. But I usually can only write them when they come out through emote. Like it has to come out that way. I can't just always sit down and write from the head. It's not. I can do that, but it doesn't really come out the same. So this one just came after feeling into all we have done to the earth as men, and yeah. So I'll give it a read. Dear Danu, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you, but I was in so much pain. I didn't want to betray you, but I thought you abandoned me. You were my first love, and I fell so hard. I still long for us to be together, but I know that time has passed. Your love was not meant for just me. Please forgive all that me and my brothers have done. We were wounded boys trying to impress our fathers. We could not even see the pain we caused you with each unconscious step we took. May the river of tears that rushes through me now cleanse my soul. I vow to serve you once again as I step back into my kingship, to protect all that is beautiful and true. And I'll bring my brothers with me, for they wish to protect you too.
Beautiful. So heartfelt. On a personal note, Cormac, you're about to become a father soon. I'm sure that stirred up a lot of emotion for you. Tell me what your hopes are for your relationship with your son or daughter, and maybe just going back to that poem, the world that they're about to encounter.
Yeah, thanks for asking that, Emma. And yeah, the feeling at the moment is excitement. It's just over 2 months to go now, so before the baby arrives. And you know, people say to you, "Oh, you're going to lose all your freedom and you'll have no time," but I suppose I'm not really looking at it that way. I feel more than ready at this point. And what I'm excited for is to give myself the permission to really go back to that presence, because I can get caught up in still get caught up in being busy and doing a lot of work, and I do my meditation and all of that, but to be actually present like most of the time, and just, I know, being with a child, all I need to really give it is that presence and that attention. And I'm excited just to allow myself to be fully present with the child, and also to go back to, I suppose, when it gets a little bit older, go back to that play even more, and like just being playful, and not taking things so seriously. So I think, it's just a very exciting time. Myself and Megan are, we're preparing and getting ready for it. And I think there's, in a sense, it was kind of freeing in a sense, because now it's like, oh, all I have to do is look after this child and this family now. I don't have to save the world like I'm always, I don't know, maybe I put pressure on myself at times to like change things, and I'll still keep working away at what I'm doing, but it's, now it's like, oh, life is nearly a bit simpler. I just have to look after my family. So very much
Wow.
looking forward to it.
I think the fact that, that child is going to have a loving, present father in itself is saving the world. I think that's the key. Having parents who are aware and who are ready to listen. We can't underestimate that. That's really what society needs. I think it's the foundation of a lot of pain, a lot of anger in this world. If we go back to childhood, we can probably see the surface of where that came from. So I think you're already going to change the world in that. Thank you so much, Cormac, for your time today. I've just been blown away by all of the projects that you've been involved in. I mean, there's so many that we could never talk about them all. So going forward, what are the key things you're excited about other than being a father that's coming up for you in the coming months?
Yeah, thanks, Emma, and thanks for a really great interview. I really enjoyed your questions, and I loved what you said there, just about being a present father is saving the world. Like that's real wisdom there, I feel. But what am I excited about? I'm very excited for this year to come. Like, it's funny, I say next year as in September, because I'm so used to the school calendar now. But I'm really excited just to get our facilitators. Like, we've 22 facilitators now to go into the 10 schools. I'm just getting really excited to get in there and get chatting to the students again, and learning from them and learning from each other, and hopefully inspiring them and connecting with them. But also, I think I'm just excited for the unknown of it all. Like, that's one of the things I love about being an entrepreneur and setting up a company, is I literally don't have a clue this time next year where I'll be. Or, I think last year I was in Brussels, I was in Germany, I was in the Netherlands talking to teachers and doing workshops, and like, I never would have expected that. That wasn't really in the plans. I just thought I'd be around in Ireland, but I don't know where I'll be next year. I don't know what will have happened, and I think that's just so exciting, because that allows me to let go of, like, we have some sort of plan for where we're going, like a grand vision, but I've just given up on the 6-month plans and the year-long plans, because I'm like, every time I do it, it just goes a completely different direction. So I think that excites me, because I don't know what's going to happen and who I'm going to meet along the way. So it feels like a real journey in that sense.
Yeah, I guess that shows that you're definitely on the right path, because you're surrendering to whatever the universe wants you to do. Cormac, thank you for being here, for your heart, for your commitment to building a world where young people and everyone can be seen, honoured and held. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Emma.